with this movie, there were so many years that I didn't want to watch it because he fell in love with Pat Wymore, and you can see it in the movie. They really do fall in love, and she, in my young, silly mind, um, really resented her for taking him away from us.
One sound out of you, and we'll shoot.
You wouldn't kill them in cold blood.
That's up to you.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns. Today, I've got an interview I did with Errol Flynn's daughter, Rory, at the Lone Pine Film Festival in Lone Pine, California. We talked about Rory's dad and his appearance in his great starring role in Rocky Mountain, a wonderful Western. One of the co-stars was Sheb Wooley, and Rory also told me that her ringtone on her phone was a flying purple people eater that was written and sung by Sheb Wooley. Let's get to Rory right now. I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us. But you have a story about Sheb Wooley.
Yes. Well, first of all, that song came out, I was probably 10 years old, 9 years old. It was a big hit. For all the kids in school loved it. Oh, boy. Anyways, my dad was doing this movie. And my grandmother, oh gosh, you couldn't be hearing me. My grandmother went on set with him to New Mexico and took my sister. But she became really good friends with Sheb Wooley. And she told him how much I loved his song. And on my 10th birthday, my father gave me a party at the Garden of Allah where he was staying at the time. And Sheb Wooley came in with all my friends were there. And he started singing this song. And it was a really big hit for a 10-year-old birthday party. I loved it.
I think his reputation on screen and off is what helped make his legacy and his films live on. People are so excited to see his films because he brought such joy to the screen. And whether it's Robin Hood or the Seahawk, I love the Seahawk.
Yeah,
I know that Captain Blood was his first film.
It's the world against us and us against the world. Those of you in favor of these articles, raise your right hands and say aye! Aye!
They shot the first few weeks of that, and he was a little nervous. Michael Curtiz was the director, and he got better as they went along because they just plucked him almost out of nowhere. He had played a corpse for Michael Curtiz in a Perry Mason movie with Warren Williams, and didn't have any dialogue. He was dead, but then in the flashback, he got to show how graceful he was. And even though that was short, they took a big chance. Jack Warner said, we want this guy as Captain Blood, and another unknown who became such a famous co-star with him, Olivia de Havilland, who was maybe 20 or 21 years old at the time. Right. Your dad, I think, was only 25.
He was 25, exactly.
Wow. And bam, superstardom.
And you know, the fact that he was 25, I mean, when my son was 25, he had no experience like what my dad had, okay? I mean, he traveled the world. He did so many things his first 25 years that's really what he brought to the screen. He was able to be that mature at 25 because he had such an interesting first 25 years.
You're mine, do you understand? Mine to do with as I please.
Well, he did 8 films with Olivia de Havilland, and I know from reading books about him and watching his films that he didn't understand why people liked those so much. He felt he was making children's films. Well, I must still be a kid, and maybe I am, but I love those films with him.
I know.
And they're still so good. Did he ever come to the point where he understood what made them popular and accept them for?
You know, when I watch like Objective Burma and I see Rocky Mountain, where I see him not in costume and not flamboyant and not even a character except who he is, you know, and Rocky Mountain that's the guy, that's the father, that's the dad that I knew at that age, and I remember him so well at his age there, and he's just so sincere. It doesn't seem like he's acting at all.
Let me go!
If you make a noise, they'll all be killed. There's a gun covering every one of them. One sound out of you, and we'll shoot.
You wouldn't kill them in cold blood.
That's up to you.
You know,
He's so good in that film, too.
It's amazing.
And he's certainly not overacting, and the character that he plays must have suited his personality so much because he brought a lot to it. And it's a slam-bang action Western written by Alan LeMay. Now, Alan LeMay was a novelist who wrote The Searchers.
oh, that's right.
With
That's
John
right.
Wayne. He
Yes,
also
yeah.
wrote
My
The
favorite
Unforgiven,
movie.
the one with Burt Lancaster, Lillian Gish, Audrey Hepburn, John Saxon. And when Warner Brothers, because they owned the script, started TV back in 1955, they used the script from Rocky Mountain for the first episode of Cheyenne.
Really?
And not only did they use the script, they used a lot of the action sequences from the movie to make it look like it was a big production.
Yeah.
And Cheyenne was a big hit, and they had Cheyenne dressed up like your dad. Clint Walker was dressed like your dad in
Clint
that.
Walker, wow, he was another good-looking guy.
Well, your dad sure was a good-looking
Yeah,
guy,
he was.
though.
That Rocky Mountain, it's just, I love the locations, of course, and I think he just held it so well as just a fearless, of a strong man. The issue that I have with it is the chivalry involved in it, okay? And I think that it's so hard for us, this generation, to understand that men actually opened up car doors for women and they were chivalrous. But to the extent of actually dying for them, it's hard to watch that particular part of it, in the writing of it.
Charge!
Of that these men are so gallant, and that they're from the army, they're from the military, so they're trained to have that respect and towards women, like women first, all of that. We don't have that anymore. Who opens a car door for you?
Well,
But-
some people don't have it. Some of us
Okay.
from the South,
There
we
you
still
go,
try
there
to
you
do that.
go. But it's really prevalent in this film of how they treated women, in the 50s.
Well, what do you say?
Well, it's up to me, too, and I say no. You can hold out up here until help comes.
They know there's only 8 of us. We could kill a few, but we couldn't stop them.
Well, then let's do what he said. Everybody take the same chance.
50s, that
That
was
they
the
could-
end of an era, too, basically, of the studios. It was a black and white 4x3, and then television was coming in, hence they used footage from not just Rocky Mountain, from all of the Warner Brothers films. They just intercut those with new storylines for Bronco or Sugarfoot or Lawman.
Right.
Just to enhance the value of them on TV, and TV was 4x3
Right.
at that time. But your dad's color spectacular Robin Hood,
Yeah,
though,
right.
with the wonderful sword fights with Basil Rathbone.
Oh,
and
yeah,
It's just such
absolutely.
a splendid film still. And Eric Wolfgang Korngold did the score. In fact, I think tonight, Max Steiner, another Warner Brothers composer
Yes,
of
yeah, fantastic.
legendary status, did the score. And this
Yeah,
is
that's-
a rousing score
That's
that
beautiful,
they
yeah.
reused in all those Cheyenne episodes, too.
And my dad has such a great voice too. He narrates this, so that is wonderful to hear him. He's really got a great voice.
From this night on, I use every means in my power to fight you.
So the thing is, with this movie, there were so many years that I didn't want to watch it because he fell in love with Pat Wymore, and you can see it in the movie. They really do fall in love. And she, in my young, silly mind, really resented her for taking him away from us and, him spending time. And I look back at her now, and I just think she was the best wife for him. She really loved him. And what did he do? Well, you know, he lost that, but he had a really good wife. is, is all I could say for quite a few years.
Well, with Patrice then, with you kids, even with your resentment, did he come to you and did you go to the two of them together and spend time with them?
No, this never happened. I think, you see, the thing with my dad is that I don't really think he knew what to do with women, really.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, he knew.
He didn't know what he was doing with a lot of women.
I don't know.
then.
I don't know if he knew how to keep them or if he even wanted to keep them, but he didn't have, he wasn't a family man, okay? He was an actor. So usually this is a very, you know, you're more concerned with yourself, the actor, than the family, and you see that all over the place. But I think that what happened with my dad was that he didn't have a good relationship with his mom, and she pretty much abandoned him at the age of 10. So I mean, I can tell you stories of Tasmania, you know, where he was 10 years old and his mother left and went to Sydney, Australia to live with her family and have his sister. They were 10 years apart. And she didn't like Tasmania at all. She hated it. It was like a penal colony. It was, you know, that's where all the criminals, where Australia sent all their criminals down to Tasmania. But my grandfather was a professor of biology at the University of Tasmania.
Well
so-
respected too.
Yes, and he also ended up as head of the zoology at Belfast, and at the end of his life. But so he was stationed down there, and she was forced to live there basically until she got pregnant with my aunt, and she said, "I'm out of here," and she left. And so my father was stuck with his father, who probably was scientist. He's out there in the flora and the fauna. He's out there. He's not, you know, he's not cooking the meals. I heard one story where my dad ran away from home. He ran up to Mount Wellington, which is the only mountain they have in Tasmania. And there's a camp up there, and the ranger found him about 2 days later. He'd been sleeping in one of these cabins up there. And he took him back down to my grandfather, and my grandfather said he was gone. Really? I didn't know he was gone.
When he was growing up and his mom left, was he the only child?
Yes, until she had his sister 10 years
later.
later in Sydney. But with all this information that you see about his upbringing, you can see that he had to survive himself. He was a loner. He actually, you know, everywhere that he went, he had traveled on his own. He didn't feel he ever had a family. So, and I know that he went, you know, he had grandparents in Sydney that he saw at Christmas time. But basically, I think a lot of the reasons he never really settled down was because of his early family life. That's my interpretation of him.
Well, it's wonderful to hear that and understand that. His love of sailing, though, which is also almost a singular avocation. He loved sailing. And
Yeah,
going out on
and
boats.
that was his freedom. You know, that's where he felt the freest, on his
And
boat.
did he have a boat when you were growing up?
Oh,
too?
yeah.
And what was that?
We used to go to Catalina all the time in the summers, and my dad would put the boat together and we'd take off. My grandmother would come, my sister, and myself. Sometimes Sean was with us. And it's 26 miles to Catalina, as you know. And we'd start off in the morning. We'd get there around 6 in the evening. And I remember so well because my grandmother was holding on to us all the time. We were going to fall over. My mother and dad were very romantic. And we'd get there, we'd get to where we were going to park the boat. And he would tell the captain, lower the dinghy. And he would go out there with a bottle of champagne with my mom. And they would get in that dinghy, and the line would go out and they'd watch the sunset go down out there. And as kids, we'd just sit there and watch them. And it was really sweet. It was the most romantic thing I remember of my parents.
Wow, that is some image, too.
Yeah.
So, and what was the name of that boat?
The Zaka.
That was his favorite one, though.
Yeah, I think, well, he really fixed it up really nicely, and it was very big, 120-foot schooner.
How many did it sleep? 120.
Oh, God, I don't know. It was really a lot. I mean, the whole family, they have a big crew, you know. That boat is now in the south of France. Somebody bought it and refurbished it exactly how my dad had it. I went in and saw the boat, and all the cushions are the same color inside. Everything was done to replicate what he did, how he designed it. So it's really beautiful.
Well, back when he was growing up in Australia and he went to Tasmania, is that how he learned about boating and sailing?
At some point, he went back to Australia. He was about 15 because he was getting kicked out of all the schools in Tasmania, which is only like 3. So he's already been suspended from that. So my grandfather said, you're going to go to your grandparents, you're going to go to school. So they put him in a school to finish high school. There he met, so he's in Sydney. So he met some guys and they did some gambling or whatever. And the story goes that they won this little boat. And this is where the book comes from, Be Men's. And they take this boat and they all decide that they're not gonna, they have nothing else to do except there's a big gold strike in New Guinea. And everyone's going to New Guinea for this gold strike. So they decide to go to New Guinea. So this is, God, it took them 3 months, I think, to get from Sydney to New Guinea. Their boat kept breaking down all along the way. What they used to do was send my dad out. They'd go into a port and they'd have these boxing rings with outdoor boxing where you could fight anybody for money. Anybody could challenge the leading guy. And that's how they would get their supplies and they'd get back on the boat. Anyways, they ended up in New Guinea, where my dad ended up staying for about 2 years. And he took on all these menial, weird jobs, like running these people from the islands in New Guinea down the barge. He decided to be a tour guide and take these tourists into 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 the jungle to hunt for these feathers, those great feathers that were birds of paradise. Anyways, he had to do a lot of things to survive there. And as it turns out, he jumped on boats. He jumped on a boat. I think he ended up taking about 2 years just hitchhiking all around Europe. He sailed all the seas on boats where they could actually hitchhike. And he met a friend and they started going on. He ended up in England.
He joined a theater company.
When he decided that there is some place where he could actually make some money. He doesn't know how to do anything else that would make money, but he did do this one little film down in Australia. The Mutiny of the Bounty.
Fletcher Christian.
Fletcher Christian, he plays that. And he was terrible, and he knew he was, right?
Have you seen that film?
Oh yeah, I've seen it many times. It's embarrassing,
no.
It's so embarrassing. But that got him into England, into the Northampton Repertory Company, where he was able to start learning his craft. Because when he got up to England, his father, who had discovered the whale bone, the prehistoric whale bones, and he had taken them up to the British Museum. So this is my grandfather. So he had connections in England. So when my dad arrived there, he said, help me out a little bit. And he did. And he was able to join this company because he had this resume of this horrible movie that he did. So they said, yeah, okay. But he did spend about 1.5 years. He wasn't just, he did learn to do these plays. He was jumping from play to play on the West End. He did have a study of acting. So he didn't go there completely, even though today I always think you can't find an overnight star like the way that he became an overnight star.
Boy, he sure
One
did.
film, bam, that
And
was
he
it.
had done a quota quickie in England, which is Warner Brothers, had to do something. They had money tied up, and so they made a low-budget movie
Right.
just to have the money spent because they couldn't take it back to the States. And he did that, but as I understand it, a Warner Brothers agent had spotted him and said, this guy has something, so let's sign him up. He called up Jack Warner and said, I'm going to send Errol Flynn over, and you need to sign him up. And so they signed him up for a 7-year contract. And on the boat over, didn't he fall in love with
Lily Demita, yeah. And Lily was friends with Jack Warner's wife. So this was the connection to actually, although Jack Warner gave him a contract, I think it was 150 a week or something like that.
That's the standard
And
thing
yeah,
back
that was
then.
to start him out. But then they got him into audition for this Captain Blood, and then that was it.
Well, of his swashbuckling films, uh, is there one that you like more than the others? I mean, is it Robin Hood? Is it Captain Blood? Is it Seahawk?
I love the Seahawk, so I definitely, you know, I can't ever give up Robin Hood. That is, you know, the
Yeah.
best of the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
You know, you can show it to your children, you can show it to your grandchildren. It's never going to go away. It's just perfect. But I do love the other adventures. They are, you know, he's great in everything.
Well, and
They
the
just-
westerns, he did 8 westerns. The first one was Dodge City, which
Yeah.
is famous for the biggest barroom brawl of anything.
I know.
And that's the only film where they explain his accent. He made all these other westerns, and they
Yes.
never explained his accent. But
Right.
in that one, they said, "Well, there's this real tough Irishman," you know,
Right.
before we see him. And so when we see him, it's just accepted.
Yeah.
They never did that again. He just was a Western cowboy hero.
And the funny thing is, it doesn't even sound like an Irish accent. Right? It sounds like a weird accent, not Irish.
But who knew back then?
Yeah,
you
I know. Who knew? No one had even heard of Tasmania back then. You know, never. So there was no. Yeah, he had to be Irish. So
That is great.
I
Now,
know.
the Garden of Allah, where your dad was staying, that was a notorious location for party guys.
yeah, I guess so. It was. Well, he sort of took it over. You know, he took that place over when he was in town, probably for about 3 or 4 years, and we'd go down there and stay with him a lot, swimming. I remember. We used to have Patty McCormick. Was it Patty McCormick who was in the Bad Seed?
Oh, yes.
She used to come and swim with my sister, and I remember going, "Wow, I saw that movie. I was really scared of her." Right? She. Anyways, so the Garden of Allah was really a fun time. We'd go down and swim, and my dad liked that place. They really catered to him.
No, that was a wonderful place. Right near Laurel Canyon and Sunset, right across the street, actually, from Chateau Marmont.
That's right, from the Chateau and Imperial Gardens, which was his favorite restaurant. So we'd walk across the street to Imperial Gardens, where he would actually stick of some of those little Chinese cups in my purse or in my coat, and so that we would kind of nick them and home, you know.
You have 2 sisters, Arnella and Deirdre, and a brother, Sean.
Was your brother Sean older or younger?
Sean was older, definitely. He was born in 1940.
And did they hang out with you when you went as a group to the Garden of Allah to see your
Oh yeah,
father?
Sean didn't live with us. He only lived with us during the summers when his mother, they lived in Florida. In fact, my brother made that movie Where the Boys Are with George Hamilton, because they were all down there in Florida. But he would come to our events, you know, to see my dad whenever we could get around. But usually she would send him, Lily Demita, for the summertime to our farm up on Mulholland Drive, which was 8.5 acres, called Mulholland Farm. And that's where my dad built this house himself. He designed it. And it looks just like an Australian ranch, needless to say, with all the animals.
What kind of animals?
Well, my dad would bring home probably an animal from every movie that he was on. We had horses, we had chicken, we had sheep from Montana, from that movie he made, Montana. And he brought back that horrible, terrible monkey that I think it was from Elizabeth and Essex, that monkey. And that monkey would terrorize us. I mean, it was, you know, I remember watching my grandmother. I was really young, you know, and my grandmother would always be standing outside with a broom in her hand. And I had no idea why until I saw her swatting that monkey out of the house. He'd go in and he'd sneak in the kitchen and throw all the cupboards on. He was horrible. But my father gave him away to the zoo, to the LA Zoo, finally. Chico was his name.
Now, how much time did you spend up at the Mulholland Ranch?
Well,
Was that in the summers? Were you staying with
well,
him?
we
or-
lived there until I was about 5, and then my parents split up. And so, you know, that's where I think I learned to love all the animals that I have. I also rescue and collect animals. So I think it was that early age that I always loved that feeling of animals and people and parties.
This film tonight is the one you selected, too. Were you on location at all when they shot?
I wasn't on location. I just, you know, the reason I love it, I love the black and white, I love the simple story, I love my dad in this. He's just so sincere, and he just was the dad that I remember, was this guy.
Were you his favorite?
Oh, I don't know. I wish he'd lived long enough so I could have been his favorite. You know, I wish I'd had more of him. But I'm happy. I got 12 years. That was my childhood. I would have loved to have had him screen some of my boyfriends. That would have been really fun. That would have been great. So they would have loved it too, right? Anyways.
Well, we love having you here in Lone Pine. I know this is your first time here, and what do you think of Lone Pine?
Oh, I love it. I've always wanted to come here, but I never felt my dad was really a cowboy, you know? And I'm so happy you guys allowed me to come this time with Rocky Mountain. It's just, I'm so excited, and I want to come back again, but we're going to run out of cowboy movies with my dad.
We are excited you joined us, and let's give her a big hand and let's start the movie. Okay.
Thanks.